Hello, this is Mr. Muller for Lesson 3-1, Graphing and Writing Inequalities. So you'll see the first three sections we're going to do are pretty much a repeat of all of Chapter 2, where we need to do the opposite, except now instead of a equal sign, it's going to be an inequality sign. That is really the only difference. So same thing, I think there's a couple of problems on this section, but a lot more on the next two that talks about adding and subtracting. But for this section, we are graphing and writing them. Okay, so remember, an inequality are these things here. So the greater than sign, less than sign, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. And just like in English, we read this left to right. So since the left side has this greater than, is bigger, that means it's going to be the greater than sign. So if it opens to the left, that's always going to be the greater than sign. If it opens to the right, it's always going to be the less than sign. So it's always going to look that way. So I know some people are confused, which one it's going to be. So this is always going to be the greater than sign opening to the left. And remember, this line underneath it means it is equal to, and that's important for today, especially when we are graphing. Okay, so getting into this, kind of looking at solutions. So describe the solutions of 2p is greater than 8. So this says 2 times p, so I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So that ends up being p is greater than 4. And we can test this out. So is negative 3 greater than 4? Well, let's see. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Negative 6 is not bigger than 8, so it's going to be a no. So kind of going all the way down the line. If you don't know which way the arrow is going to be going or the symbol is going to be going, just test out some numbers. Okay, 5 is bigger than 4. 2 times 5 is 10. 10 is bigger than 8. Yes, it's true. So numbers like 5 work, but numbers like 0 and negative 3 don't, because those numbers are not bigger than 4. Okay, and then we're going to have to graph some solutions. So they'll look exactly like this. Okay, and then some big differences when we graph are going to be this open circle here that we see on this first two versus this filled in circle that we see on the bottom two. And the difference is, if we have an open circle, that means that it's just a less than or greater than sign. If we have that filled in circle, we're going to see that equal to line underneath. Okay, so important that when we're graphing, we're looking at what kind of circle we're using based on what the sign is. This is basically a really good slide of the three kinds of problems we're going to have. Sometimes they'll give it to us in words. We need to write in algebra or graph it. Sometimes they're going to graph it. We need to write it in algebra, or in words. So it's basically the three kinds of problems that we'll do. Okay, so for this one, we have to graph the inequality. M is greater than or equal to negative 10 plus 6. So if I'm going to write that, so I'm going to just simplify that. So M is greater than or equal to negative 4. Okay, since I have a greater than or equal to sign, I know my circle is going to be filled in. I'm looking for numbers bigger than negative 4, so I'm going to be filling in everything to the right. So it should look exactly like that. There's a filled in circle at negative 4, and numbers like negative 2, 0, 2, 4, 6, all those numbers are bigger than negative 4. Notice how I have the arrow going on forever, because 12 is bigger than negative 4, but this also goes off the graph. Like numbers like 100 are bigger than negative 4, but we're not going to draw out 100 numbers. And then kind of the same thing here. T is less than 5, and then parentheses negative 1 plus 3. So if I'm going to solve that, it's going to be T is less than 10. Okay, and I have my less than sign, so it's going to be an open circle, and we're going to shade everything to the left to make it less than 10. Okay, this one, like I said, here's a graph, so they're going to give us the graph, and we need to say what it is. So we pick a variable, it doesn't matter which one it is. Okay, so I have X, and I'm shading all the numbers that it looks like are less than 2. So numbers like 1, 0, negative 1. Okay, I have an empty circle, so I know it's going to be, there's no equal to underneath, and all the numbers that are less than 2. Same thing here, I have X, and I have a negative 0.5 now. It looks like I'm shading X is everything greater than or equal to everything bigger than negative 0.5. Okay, I have a filled in circle, so I know it's greater than or equal to. I'm going to the right, so I know it's a greater than sign, and there's my 0.5, and there it is. Sometimes we'll use this in real life when we're talking about, things like temperature, like Mom or dad says you can only turn on the air conditioner if it's over 85 degrees. Well, what does that look like? That means, the temperature has to be more than 85 degrees. If it's 84 degrees, you might get in trouble for turning on the air conditioner. So it needs to be more than 85 degrees. All right, and then kind of a wrap up. So describe the solution. 7 is less than x plus 4. I have a plus 4, so I'm going to minus 4. So I have x is greater than 3. And that's what it says. All real numbers greater than 3. Here I'm going to graph it. I have a greater than or equal to, so I know it's going to be a filled-in circle. And I'm graphing numbers bigger than negative 4.75. So like negative 4.5 and so on and so on. Okay, this one, last two, I need to write it down. So I'm going to have x greater than, because it's going this way, 3 or equal to 3. Filled-in circle. So x is greater than or equal to 3. And then the last one, I have x is less than, because the arrow is going this way now, negative 4.5. And it's just going to be a less than sign. I'm not going to have that equal to underneath because it's an open circle.